supermarket, symbol of the high standard of living in this country today. These products come from farms and ranches despite distance and season. They are the result of a miraculous agriculture. Today, agriculture is going far beyond nature to produce new miracles for an even better, more abundant life. The work of the men behind the scenes is done on the farm, in the laboratory, and in the marketplace. On the farm today, wherever you look, you see the handiwork of scientists. Improved crops, more productive soils, more useful, more efficient machinery.
I'm very concerned that the impacts of climate change and energy depletion are converging. And it's very clear that we will not be able to sustain global food production levels in the coming years without a drastic change in the way we do things. On the one hand, you have the impact of global warming. Due to erratic weather, for example, increased droughts and increased floods in different regions, we will see many more crop failures which will drastically impact on global food production. The other issue, of course, is energy. Industrial agriculture is heavily dependent on oil. We are dependent on oil-based fertilizers and pesticides, and if we reach a point where supplies of hydrocarbon energy are diminishing, we will be unable to sustain industrial agriculture in order to meet world population needs. The problem, of course, is that it's not just about peak oil and climate change, it's also about the nature of the economic system, which is propelling us to consistently try to get control of more and more resources, to produce more and more, in the interests of a corporate system of agribusiness, which is based not on trying to meet people's needs, but based on trying to meet the profits of a tiny minority of agribusiness corporations, who have no interest in sustaining the environment and no interest in population needs, but their interest is simply to make as much food as you can and sell as much as you can to the people who are going to buy it. So that means producing for the interests of the industrial societies in the north and trying to maximize their consumption at prices that can maximize your profit. What's happening as a result is that more and more of the world's fertile land is being used up. The other problem is that the very methods of industrial agriculture are diminishing the soil. We degrade the soil at a rate that it can't renew itself in time for us to continue producing enough food.
Great new harvesting systems and distribution methods had to be developed to bring these crops from faraway farms fresh to our tables.
You have this skewed international system of food distribution. The majority of people in the less developed countries are working as displaced farmers, working on these agribusiness complexes, producing food which is then exported to the richer countries of the West for very cheap prices. And where are they supposed to get their food from? Well, they're buying food produced in the West very expensively, and they can't afford to buy the food. All of these combined factors, economic inequality, industrial debilitation of the soil, peak energy, climate degradation, ecological degradation, all converging, and we will increasingly see over the next decade higher food prices in terms of staple foods like corn, wheat, and so on. And we will find more and more people in the less developed countries subject to malnutrition and starvation. And slowly over time, this could come to afflict the Western countries. All of these factors are consistently pushing us towards a solution based on participatory forms of organization. More localized forms of agriculture, more organic forms of agriculture which aren't reliant on oil. And I think overall the question that we need to ask is that form of agriculture going to be sufficient to maintain our needs? Is it desirable to sustain the kind of levels of overconsumption perhaps that go on in Western countries? Certainly we need to stop wasting so much food as we do here in the West. We throw away millions of tons of food. This is an inherent part of the supermarket system and it's part of the profit-making incentive. Is there a way in which we can reduce that? Can we sustain high levels of consumption under organic agriculture. One of the best studies I read was done by the University of Michigan and their environment department. And they argued that actually, even if you look at current levels of growth, and we envisage a population of 11 billion people, we could actually implement a form of organic, localized, no pesticide agriculture that would actually feed 11 billion people. And that would be clean, that wouldn't be reliant on fossil fuels. And that's a very astounding and very interesting study. Being pragmatic about it, I would say, let's imagine that that's not the case. We are seeing an overall message that we do not want to keep growing. This infinite growth has to stop. We need to reach a limit. We need to have a steady state system of some kind. And if we do that, then I think a future picture of forms of localized organic agriculture could be much more sustainable, much more viable, and much more accessible to communities.